I'd like to call the village board meeting for the Village of Cary for Tuesday, October 6, 2015 to order with roll call, please.
Chapman?
Here.
Cosler?
Here.
Cavelli? Here. Kraus?
Here.
McAlpine?
Here.
Thank you. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'll now move to the open forum where the public is invited to make an issue-oriented comment on any matter of public concern not otherwise on the agenda. I have several people that have signed in, so I will go ahead and start calling them. Jerry Barrett.
Yes, I was wondering, I live at 557 Krenz, and it's in relation to the Maplewood School property. I went to the school board and the zoning committee hearing, and at that meeting, they talked about access roads, and one of the members of the school board was kind of upset about that because she said it would probably take 2 acres off their, property to put in land, to put in the roads. And then I was thinking, if they're talking about a multi-family unit, what about parking? And she was talking about their developer, something like 200 or 300 apartments. Well, when I researched that, it looks like you're going to need an acre for every 120 to 160 cars. So it seems to me that if they're talking only about 15 acres, 2 acres away for, streets, another 3 or 4 acres away for parking, it doesn't leave very much land there to develop. So I'm wondering if there's not a lot of land, that means somebody's going to build up to recoup their loss. So I'm wondering how many stories does the village allow in a multi-family facility or building? How many stories can they build? Are we going to be talking like Arlington Heights, 10 or 15 stories with parking underneath? Or are we talking about 2 stories, 3-story apartment buildings?
There isn't any development proposal on the table right now to be able to answer that with, if that's what you're asking.
Okay, so basically there's no limit until we get a development proposal, right?
There's code, but I mean, in theory, there may be developers, depending upon how the school district runs this process. It's my understanding since our last meeting, and I think you were there with me when we had the last meeting at the school district, I've been informed that they're heading out to a proposals process to sell the property. And as I understand it, they're not at this time going to ask the village to consider a rezoning of the property before that process proceeds. That's a decision that's theirs to, I guess, make. Our board does everything with rezoning. But yeah, they might get all sorts of different development proposals that may need various variances, other, code changes to allow to happen, as well as rezoning. So it just depends on what level of interest they get. You can presume that because of what you've said, quite directly, yeah, there's going to be some fairly dense proposals that will come in. It just depends on what this village feels is appropriate or not appropriate for the site. But it appears they want to sell the property.
Current code allows 3 stories, isn't that correct? Currently, we allow 3 stories. In
Brian, can you come to the mic and answer that on the record?
Yeah, under the current zoning for the property, it's zoned for single family. So the maximum height is 30 feet for a single family home. If it's rezoned to a multifamily district or R3 district, again, the maximum height is it's the same, but the further you are set back for a building from a property line, you can go higher. So if you go another 2 feet above that height restriction, your setback requirement increases by a foot. So there's no defined limit to paste in the code specifically more beyond where the building would be set. So the further it is toward the center of the property, the taller it could potentially be by right under our code.
Thank you, Brian. Angie Franz,
Hi.
did you want to address the board?
No, not this time.
Okay.
Here with the group.
Okay, thanks. Terry Finn?
We thought we were just signing.
Oh, you thought you were just saying?
No, that's
Well, that's fine. We'd love to hear from you.
Same group. Yeah, but we-
And same with Gary, you just signed in?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, my name's Gary Iward from 710 Harper Avenue in Cary, Illinois. It was just brought to my attention, I believe yesterday, by Jim, that across the street from where we live, and we live in a townhouse complex that's been there for about 11 years, built in 2004, that there are plans being made for the property directly across the street to build new homes that are 30 feet from the curb, I believe, 11 feet apart, and a lot of the oak trees that are there, mature oak trees, are going to be torn down, for the new construction. And we don't think it's a good idea because the traffic, increased traffic, the parking situation, and then, the homes being undervalued. I assume our homes are about 2,900 square feet. So we're concerned about that also. So we're here just as a group just to vote no. Thank you.
There's an item on our agenda tonight for consideration of that, and the board will take testimony. It's on our agenda tonight.
I want to ask a question as well, are you, as residents, signed up for the village email? Yes, there's been a sign out there on that property for well over a month about the proposed hearing, but please go on the Village of Cary's website and register for the email blast. Things come out, and you would have known about that, and you could have attended the zoning hearing, which we value it much more, at the time when it's of concern. So please, everybody, if you want to get some, information about when those things are coming up.
Is it so
Come up to the
commercial
mic.
Could you come up to the mic and just give us your name and address,
I'm
please?
curious if it's zone commercial as well.
We're going to
That's
answer those
considered-
questions tonight because
Okay.
the formal approval is tonight. It's totally appropriate to be here to comment.
Okay.
We're going to give the case evaluation from staff that summarizes what zoning talked about, zoning board, and then tells you the details about what's being asked of the village trustees.
Diane,
I'm part of the,
you're part of the group too? No comment right now?
no. Could the gentleman who was up talking about Maplewood, could I just ask a
to the
general?
Could you come up to the microphone, please?
You were talking about on housing from the ground level up. What if it's in a slope property? Where does the ground start?
We're going to talk about that in just a few minutes on the
Okay, I
board, so we
didn't
can
know, but I
answer
was
all the
just
questions at
Curious
that
for
time.
general information.
Rather than having people coming back and forth, we'll address everybody's concerns. We'll give you all an opportunity to speak at that particular time.
Okay.
Is that fair?
Sure.
Okay, great.
I just have one thing. I tried that
Come
website.
Could you come up to the microphone, please?
Sure.
I tried the website to get in contact with the Cary.gov, and nothing comes up. I don't know, this was a while back when I was trying to get information. There was nothing on the website. There's nothing I can pull up. And has that changed?
No, our website is caryillinois.com.
What, yeah, that was
We
the
can
one.
take your email address tonight and help you with that. To get, we have weekly updates that do go out. Glad to help you with that.
Oh, and then just send them to me? That would be great.
Sure.
Because I've tried that and I couldn't get through.
Yeah, we'll take your email address. That way it comes weekly.
Okay.
And we'll try it tomorrow morning as well. So I'll have
Okay.
somebody try it, so that we can make sure that if it isn't working, we want to make sure that it is. And Jacob will certainly follow up
Okay.
on that.
Great.
Thank you. Kim, are you here for the matter that's on the agenda? Okay. Is there anybody else present that would like to address the village board that hasn't signed in? About any other matter that's not on the village agenda? Okay, we'll go ahead and close open forum. Thank you. Moving to the mayor's report. I'm going to flip, I'm adding one thing. We forgot to put something on. We have the homecoming parade this week on Saturday, so some of the roads will be closed. Come out and enjoy the Trojan Fest. They're playing one of their biggest rivalries, Jacobs, this weekend. So it should be a good game. The game starts at 1 o'clock. The parade, I believe, hits Cary around 10 o'clock. We start off in Fox River Grove. So it's a good community event, so just thought I'd let you guys know about that. And then moving forward to Eric is going to help me out with this. The Illinois Department of Public Health has awarded us the Fluoridation Award. Once again, this is their 20th year that we've received this award. So I'm going to turn it over to Eric, and he can kind of explain what exactly this award is.
Certainly. Yeah, I'm very proud to announce that the Illinois Department of Public Health has given the village this award, as I mentioned, for the 20th consecutive year. It's basically in demonstrating and honoring the fact that the village has been compliant for every consecutive month of the year in meeting their standards for fluoridization of the drinking water supply. Applying fluoride is a mandated practice that is documented to show health benefits, and only 60 of the communities out of 1,838 water supplies have achieved this accomplishment for 20 consecutive years. So I just wanted to recognize our Public Works Department, in particular Chief Utility Operator John Stein and Assistant Director Mike Walsh, and their entire team for helping make this possible.
Great, congratulations.
That's great. I believe some of them are watching from home on our web streaming tonight, so thank you to all the team from Public Works.
I was remiss. I wrote a handwritten note to myself. We are live streaming our village board meetings right now, and they're always going to be available now on YouTube. So at your convenience, you can come back and watch the meetings or go back to any other meetings. We're also videotaping the ZPA meetings as well, so you'll be able to find out what's going on in the village. So I encourage you all to take a look at what's happening. Thank you, Eric. I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items number 1 through 6.
So moved.
Second, I did have just a quick question about number 4. I was wondering, why is number 4 on the consent agenda and not on the items for separate consideration? What was the reasoning for that?
Not that I know.
Starbucks.
I apologize. Yeah.
I can respond to that. In the past, it was discussed before the board if there's unanimous recommendations coming from the zoning board, that those items be placed on the consent agenda as a
Okay.
business practice. So that's why that item is on the consent agenda.
Okay, thank you. That answers my question.
Yeah, I wondered the same thing, Jeff, so I appreciate you pointing that out. And I had some issues with that, the way that property is laid out, but it's okay. We can vote on the consent agenda, so.
Okay, roll call, please.
Chapman?
Yes.
Kraus?
Yes.
McAlpine?
Yes.
Cosler?
Yes.
Cavelli?
Yes.
Thank you. I will entertain a motion to approve ordinance 015-01-02, granting an amendment to the annexation agreement for the Cambria subdivision, which includes certain modifications to the landscape plans incorporated as part of the agreement.
So moved.
Second?
Thank you. Turn it over to you, Brian.
Thank you, Mayor. As mentioned, this is a request by the Cambria Homeowners Association. The Cambria subdivision was originally part of an annexation agreement that was adopted by the village board in 1999 that governed the scope and parameters related to that development. Since the project or the development has matured over time, the association has been looking at certain maintenance issues that are now prevalent with the development being in existence for 16 years. They have certain maintenance issues that have come to light that they're asking for to amend the landscape plan, which is part of that annexation agreement. This exhibit shows the overall landscape plan, or at least for the northern portion of the property, the overall landscape plan that was incorporated as part of that annexation agreement. It was one of the exhibits. And also a courtyard landscape plan that detailed the landscaping that was provided around the individual structures and the courtyards between the buildings and the driveways accessing the individual units. The proposal or request, which is for the board this evening, is requesting permission to remove permanently certain pergola structures that are on the property. As you can see in this image here, the landscape plan, they're located closer to the public pedestrian right-of-way. and would cover the sidewalks that lead into the courtyards between the individual buildings. There's about 20, I believe 28 structures that are on the property in between the individual buildings that are there. So they are due to the costs to replace those structures. There's numbers that were in the information that was provided to you in your packets. The association, rather than replacing those, is seeking relief to remove those structures, but the landscaping that would be around them, which is existing, would remain. The second request is another maintenance issue that's located in the landscape islands between the individual garage units of the Hanbury townhome units, which this slide indicates where those trees are located. The images that were provided in the petitioner's information indicate the type of maintenance issues that they're starting to experience with the trees. When they were planted, they were very small in scale. And as they have matured over time, they've grown in size, and the root systems have started to compromise some of the curbing for those islands. They're very narrow islands from a width standpoint. Additionally, some of the tree canopies are growing up with their proximity to the buildings and are brushing against the siding of the building. There's maintenance costs to maintain or trim those trees on an annual basis. And the petitioners are seeking to permanently remove 106 trees throughout the development that are located in these locations and replace them with some more appropriate lower scale landscaping. Per the agreement, there is language within the agreement that indicates that the village and developer or subsequent assigns can agree to modifications to the annexation agreement in writing. Although this particular request doesn't require a formal public hearing. This is more of a small detail of the plan. Staff felt that it was an appropriate discussion point to have before this board, just due to the potential nature it would have on the impact of the look of the development. So the requested action this evening is, again, to amend the landscape plan associated with the annexation agreement to allow for the permanent removal of the 28 pergolas throughout the property and 106 trees in the landscape islands between the Hanbury units. There are two members of the board here as well that can provide additional information or answer any questions that you may have on the request.
Anybody have any direct questions?
I have a few too. Go ahead, Dave.
All right. To the board, will you then be reducing your assessment for the residents since you won't be having these maintenance costs?
Get, could you just give your name and address, please?
Our assessments are based on our...
Excuse me, could you give your name and address, please?
Fred McGollum, I'm Secretary for Cambria Homeowners Association. And no, we will not be reducing our assessments. Right now, we're in the process of, how do I put this? Increasing our reserve fund. We have roofs coming up within the next 3 to 4 years. And you're looking at close to $1.5 million for 45 units that are going to need new roofs. So we're trying to build our reserves, and instead of, last year we did a 13th assessment to increase our reserves. Rather than do that this year, the timing was kind of not cool. So we're going to spread it out over the entire year this year so that we can build the reserves and we have something to go into this roofing project with.
All right, and the other question was the 28 pergolas that you want to remove, and then we have the information in our packet, but for the public record, could you state the amount of the cost that you're going to be shedding by not having to paint these? I'm assuming that's part of the maintenance.
Yeah, well, yeah, the maintenance, the painting is nothing. What is going to be expensive, the wood is rotted.
Okay.
And deteriorated to a point where they're safe, but they're on their way out.
All right.
And it's going to cost us almost $70,000
$70,000.
to repair them.
Thank you.
Whereas to remove them is going to cost us approximately, I believe it's $9,000.
Jeff, you had a question?
Yeah, I'm just,
Mr. Kraft.
do you feel that by doing this, are you really helping the development in terms of aesthetics and the value of the development?
I would say yes. You're looking at removing, to me, they serve no real purpose. You know, if there was something like, if they had a roof on them or something, where if you're out walking, you get caught in the rain, you get ducked under them, you know, I might go to keep them. But it's a big maintenance item, even just painting.
Okay. Have you polled the community and how they feel about things? Do they want this to go forward?
No, we
I
haven't
mean-
told them. No, we haven't.
I mean, if the assessment isn't going to change, you know, are they aware this is what you're considering doing in that?
Yes, we discussed this at one of our board meetings. Unfortunately, we get like 3 to 4 people at a board meeting.
We know the feeling.
Hi, I'm Kim Bennett, Cambria Board President. To answer your question, yes, I do plan on polling the residents of Cambria. This is the first step in the process, but I feel that this is a big change, and I feel that if the trees are coming out as well, it's equally a big change all at one time, and I feel that the residents should have a say. So yes, I plan on polling the residents.
Thank you.
Should that be something done then before we vote on this tonight?
Yeah.
That's a good question.
It's up to you.
Yeah.
And I would be curious as to what the residents, I mean, as you said, only 4 come to the meeting, 3 or 4 come. And what tends to happen sometimes is then people find out afterwards and then they might be upset about it. And I'm not comfortable voting on it until I know that the residents that are living there understand what's going on. And based on what you're telling us from a financial standpoint, it sounds like it's probably a good decision. But these are people that are living there, and I'd also want to know, like, what are you planning on replacing? You know, if you're going to take out the trees, do you have any idea what you're going to replace them, put in there? Because it's going to leave a big hole there.
Unfortunately, until the trees are removed, we won't know how deep the root system goes. So that it will depend on how deep that root system is before we can decide whether we can put something there. It might not be sustainable. Let's say, for example, it's not sustainable. We would stump ground those stumps and we would put ground cover there. I mean, something will go there. If any of you are familiar or have driven by Cary Woods development lately, I mean, they took theirs out, I believe, last summer, and they left the stumps. They did not cover those. Ours will not look like that. I can't speak for everybody on our board, but I believe that a board majority has a very strong opinion about the aesthetics of the community. We're already seeing property values increase because of that. And so, if I can speak for everybody, I mean, our goal is to maintain the aesthetics to the best of our ability. I will say, though, with regards to the removal of the trees, the public is well aware of that, and we have had meetings to discuss that, so that would be a separate issue. We were planning on removing the trees about 2 years ago, and based on a homeowners association meeting that we had to discuss that topic, we decided, to put it off a little bit. So the public is aware of that. They've been kind of forewarned on many occasions, actually, that we were planning on removing the trees.
And what's the response to it?
Well, we did have a meeting. It was announced that the topic was going to be discussed at that meeting, and we had 3 homeowners out of 239 show up.
Kind of hard to get the statistical sampling out of that, isn't it?
Yeah.
But the evidence is clear throughout the property. The bases are cracking.
I can see it from
We
your
can't
pictures.
repair the bases until the trees are out. So to leave the trees in and just cause further damage to the asphalt and to the foundation is, the cost would be insurmountable for the association to bear.
So if you're going to direct them to poll, just please explain what you expect back and how that works, those kind of things, as you debate this.
Was there any other comments by the board?
I have a comment. I'm probably the only one on this board that actually lived in one of those units. I lived there for 3 years, although I was a renter, not an owner. But I am intimately aware of the problems with the trees in their current location in the driveway areas. It was a totally bad decision on the species, and it causes huge issues in those units. I don't want to see 106 trees cut down, but in the same breath, it has to be done because it's going to cause huge problems in the future for the asphalt and the curb structures around there. So
We were forewarned by our tree care company that those trees would survive 14 years. The property is roughly about 13 years now. Some are thriving, others are not. So who knows how much longer, but eventually they will start to die.
Yeah. And as far as the pergolas, I don't really see that as being detrimental to the development. As far as anybody that goes to purchase there, I don't see them saying, hey, that pergola is, beautiful,
That's
and I'm going to buy this house because of the pergola. There really is no purpose except for some little aesthetics, and I see them as a huge maintenance hassle. I see it perfectly logical explanation for removing them in my eyes.
I just want to say, I agree about the pergolas, and I assume if you guys do have to spend $70,000 to fix them, it's only going to increase people's assessments. So because they serve no purpose and everything else, I can't imagine that people aren't going to be for what you guys are trying to do. Also about the trees. My question is related to the roofs that you were just talking about, that you guys are trying to build that fund. So how realistic is it that you guys are going to replace that landscape? Or is that going to be put on the back burner for the roofs? Because my concern is with the 100 trees going, I mean, that is a lot of trees. So I'm just curious, with relation to that and the roofs, where does the landscape fall as far as importance to the roofs? Is that something that is going to be replaced, or is the roofs going to take
We are
precedence over
definitely
that?
planning on replacing the trees in the driveways. That's been our plan right from the get-go.
Okay.
The roofs, they're still 4 years down the road.
Okay.
But like I said, we need to build up our reserves. That's why we're not going to cut the assessments.
Okay.
The association will be starting, beginning next year, a consideration of a association-wide landscape plan. There's a couple of landscape issues throughout the property that we need to address, and that will be part of that plan. So it definitely will be a plan. I can't speak right now whether it's something that would be done in phases over a period of a couple of years. It really just depends on how deep that root system is, what we can get out of there, and what will do well in that spot. So we will be meeting with our landscaper, who has a landscaper designer that's worked with Cambria in the past. We'll be going through that plan in great detail, and that'll be happening in the spring.
Excellent.
Anything else? Dave?
Yeah, if everybody else has spoken. The trees on the parkway along the streets, are you planning on taking those out as well?
No, sir.
Those are your property.
No.
Okay, all right, okay. Well, I thought they were the same type of trees that were there, and we're just saying 13 or 14 years.
No.
Okay, thank you.
With regards to the polling, is there any issue? Do you want to wait till the poll, or do you want to go ahead and make a vote on this? Are you wanting to table this until the residents are all notified what the pending changes are going to be? Or is there, do you have enough
Well,
information to make a
They get
decision
approval
tonight?
for this and then speak to the residents, and the residents don't like it, they don't have to do it, right? That's my opinion.
Sure.
If
Well, I
they
think
do that, that's up to them, and
Well,
they're
the
at
homeowners
jeopardy.
association, that trumps anything, right? I mean, your
Board
resident.
represents
yeah,
the homeowners board
So
represents
whatever you
Sure.
choose to do, the entire homeowners association has to abide by what you're doing, right?
Correct.
Yes.
We also have time. I mean, we're not, this isn't going to happen now. The earliest anything could be done with the pergolas would be next summer anyway. So, I mean, there's plenty of time to do a survey.
Well, I'll motion to
Well, I'm just trying to help you out here, trying to see if there's a temperament here that we could maybe table this for right now and let you get some of your more information so you have more of a concrete foundation as to how your residents feel about it. I understand the maintenance issues, I truly do. So, I was just, so rather than saying no right now, that maybe there's an opportunity that you can come back if we table this right now. We can get some, concrete answers for you, or you can give us some concrete answers. Would that be acceptable to you?
Yes.
I move to table the item for 1 month while the homeowners association conducts a poll of their residents.
Is that enough time for you?
I'm sorry, how many months did you
1
say?
month.
We do it in a month?
Do you want to do 60 days? Would that be better for
I
you?
think that would, I might be able to do it, but I think 60 would be
60 would be
nice.
better.
Or 45 even.
All right. I move that we table this agenda item for 45 days until the homeowners association can conduct a poll and come back with the results.
Second it.
Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Cavilli,
Yes.
Cosler,
Yes.
McAlpine,
Yes.
Chapman,
Yes.
Kraus.
Yes.
Thank you. I will entertain a motion to approve ordinance 015-10-03, issuing a Class C liquor license to LIV Live Large Incorporated, doing business as the Tobacco Stop for the property located at 688 Northwest Highway.
So moved.
Second,
Brian?
I think.
Mayor? Thank you, Mayor.
Pardon
The request before you this evening is from the Tobacco Stop, a retail store, which is in the Cary Square Shopping Center. They are seeking approval this evening for a Class C liquor license. They're looking to add to their existing services at their location. Right now, they only sell retail sale of tobacco products, looking to devote about 20% of their retail footage towards a lounge area where customers can come in and enjoy beverages from that standpoint. Petitioner is here as well, so he can answer any additional questions you may have regarding the request. Staff is recommending approval of the request for the Class C liquor license.
Could you explain a little bit of, I'm sorry.
Oh, is the petitioner here?
Yeah.
Did you? I'm assuming you want to know more about the process with the
Just,
project.
just what a Class C liquor license is. We have one in Foxford Hills Golf Club. Is it more for like special events currently, or Foxford Hills, do they serve liquor all the time?
At the golf club.
Did you want to
Yeah,
answer?
okay.
They do.
So we have several licenses within the village, different classes.
Correct.
A Class C license basically allows for the consumption of alcohol on the premises, for sale and consumption on the premises. It's different from a Class A license, which is more generally geared towards a restaurant use, then might produce more alcohol on the site, but it's very similar as far as its consumption on the premises, not purchase and leave the premises.
And is it also wine and beer plus liquor, hard liquor?
Yeah, I don't, specifically looking at the requirement, I don't think it specifies the
It's just-
breakout of it.
Okay.
Mhm.
Does anybody have any questions for the petitioner? No? Okay, roll call, please.
Cavelli,
Yes.
Kraus,
No.
McAlpine,
Yes.
Cosler,
Yes.
Chapman.
Yes.
Thank you. Congratulations. You're good to go. I will entertain a motion to refer a request for conditional use for detached garage, the property located at 15 West Frankie Avenue, back to the Board of Zoning, Planning, and Appeals for consideration of additional variations necessary for the construction of a proposed garage.
So moved.
Second.
Hello.
Hello, me again. Thank you, Mayor and Board. Real briefly, as the motion was made, the referral is to refer this back to the board. The ZPA did review the request for conditional use at their meeting last in September for this request, and at the time there were some questions as far as the size and height requirements that were required for the garage, if variations were necessary. There were some questions on the code specifically at that point as far as what was online versus the print copies that some board members had and the requirements. And following that meeting, we had some research and determined that those size requirements were required. So it would need to go back to the board for additional review. Talk to the petitioner regarding the request. They do want to pursue the two variations rather than revise the plans to comply with code. So they want to go back through the zoning process for that. So staff is recommending that the matter be referred back for additional consideration and another public hearing in that regards.
Any questions for Brian?
Is this,
Go ahead. It just seemed a little bizarre that, did any discussion go on at the zoning and planning board, or did they just go ahead and approve this, and then once it got to staff, you guys looked at it and said, hey, wait a minute, there's some issues here, we need to send this back?
No, there was discussion. Actually, the petitioner, when they came in originally, was seeking variations for size and height. And when staff, myself, reviewed the code, there's a table when we codified the code that, for whatever reason, was mistakenly dropped in that codification. So I didn't believe that the variation was required. So before the actual hearing took place, One board member did have a question to make sure if the variations were required or not. They still decided to have the hearing on the conditional use because that was the request before them that evening. And then staff was going to go back and research the history of the code to make sure variations were required or not. Following the hearing, I did conduct additional research and determined that a variation was necessary. Gave the petitioner the option to either revise their plan to comply with the size and height requirements or go through the variation process, and they want to seek those variations.
It pretty much answers my questions as well. I just, I'm concerned, and this is not directed necessarily at this subject, but I'm concerned at our codifying our ordinances. And Jake, I'm trying to remember what I asked you about 3 weeks ago that wasn't updated.
Phone in ordinance.
So I'm worried that things are getting dropped in the process, and there's been no review of our ordinance now that they're online like that. So it may be a discussion for a later time, but I just wanted to point that out.
It can't be now. We agree. We're auditing just to verify. We've caught a couple things, as the board recalls, some that were here before as well, and then the new trustees. We had a municipal code that was beyond in piecemeal, and we did a complete recodification last year. And there certainly was attorney review, there was a muni code review, but it is probably not a complete surprise. There are some loose ends that we've caught, and this is one of them. And so, yeah, as I saw this, I was here the night, we had a different workshop hearing that night, and I came down and was here at the zoning meeting afterwards and got the report. And so what we decided to do is Laura, our intern, is now on duty 5 days a week. We're going beginning to end on the code, just doing a different fact check on it from that perspective to make sure there aren't any other loose ends or ordinances such as you described. I think that'll catch it. We're doing that in lieu of having Muni Code do it. But so that's how we're implementing the workaround on that.
Brian, are our ordinances available to the residents online?
Yes, the village code, if you access the village's main website, there's a link under the quick link section to the municipal code, so you can access all of the municipal code from that standpoint.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Cosler,
Yes.
McAlpine,
Yes.
Kraus,
Yes.
Chapman,
Yes.
Cavelli.
Yes.
Thank you. I will entertain a motion to approve ordinance 015-10-05, granting a conditional use for 9-unit plan development with detached garages, final plat of subdivision, application of village impact fees for townhome, row home, quadruplex development, and 7 variations to the village's code requirements for building setbacks, building separation, and retention of existing trees.
So moved.
Second.
Brian?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Board. As indicated, the petitioner is requesting approval of conditional use for planned unit development with variations. The subject application of impact fees and a plat of subdivision for a 9-unit planned development on 400 Haber Road. The proposed development was reviewed at a zoning board hearing in September, and this site plan that's shown here indicates the layout of the development. It's a little difficult to read due to the contours of the site, but there is a large grade differential as you transverse the site from east to west and also from north to south. So the development is proposed is to try and take advantage of existing contours of the site to take that into consideration as far as how the site is designed. As proposed, there are a number of variations that are being requested. What this slide indicates majority of the setback variations that are being requested. The setback petitioner is requesting a variation to the required front yard and exterior side yard setbacks at front right-of-ways. So that would be along Haber Avenue and Harper Avenue. The code requirement is a 50-foot separation, and they're seeking relief to reduce it to 30 feet. That is consistent with the existing development that's to the west. Further down Harper Avenue, those townhomes are all situated about 30 feet off the right-of-way. Additionally, variation request is for the rear property line. Again, code requirements for a 50-foot separate building setback. To the detached garage, they're proposing a 44-foot building setback. And a 15-foot building setback is proposed to the property to the east, which is a vacant site zoned for commercial along Cary-Algonquin Road. Similarly, separation between the buildings variation is requested. The way staff reviewed this project was applied our multifamily, single-family attached zoning requirements, as it is zoned R3, but it's more of a planned development with the single-family structures that are in place. There is no separation requirement, but in our code for between single-family units, specifically in a residential area that's zoned for single-family development, you would have your building setback lines in the underlying zoning district. But in our multifamily districts, between multifamily structures, depending on the number of windows that are on the side of the structure, there's a certain building setback you need to have. So if there's 3 or more windows that are on building elevation, I believe the code is 30 or 40 feet separation. They're requesting to reduce that down to 11 feet in this instance. This table provides an overview as far as what the code requirements are. Again, the front setback, exterior side yard setbacks are reduced from 50 to 30 feet. The interior side yard to the property, the vacant property at the east, is going from 25 feet to 15 feet, and then the rear yard from 50 feet to 44. The petitioner is also requesting a variance to the density requirements. Maximum permitted by code for the size of the site is 4.5 units per acre. They're proposing 6.9 units per acre based off the size of the site. The lot, as proposed, would comply with lot coverage requirements, complying with our 45% code requirement. This table and illustration shows the proposed density compared to other densities in the area that are existing. It would be in line with the Cary Oak subdivision and the Haber Court subdivisions number 1 and 2 on this image. Number 3 is a more recent development, Harper Avenue Townhomes, which is about 4.8 units per acre. But the 6.9 proposed is consistent with the majority of the development already existing in the immediate area. As proposed, they are from Harper Avenue will appear to be 2-story structures. The main design of the development, which the petitioner can give some additional information on as far as how he came to the design, is more of a ranch-style home where the homeowners would be able to access the home via the detached garages and a pedestrian walkway that would access to the second floor of the unit as the main entrance and main living area, and then the lower level would be utilized more as a bonus area or basement from that standpoint, which would be the front door that you would see from Harper Avenue. This illustrates a little bit further as far as with the grade separation. Walking in from the detached garage would be at grade level in the rear of the structure, and as you would walk through the home, the grades between the 2 units would decrease further down towards the right-of-way at Harper Avenue. As proposed, there is a final plat of subdivision that was included in the approvals as requested, which is indicated in this slide, would be creating the 9-lot subdivision with the appropriate signature blocks as required by code. Finally, another relief that the petitioner is seeking is due to the nature of the site or the development being a more compact plan development. They are seeking for relief from the village's single-family detached impact fee schedule and asking for the application of the townhome row home project fee schedule, which the difference would be indicated in this slide. It does provide a slight savings to the developer from a impact fee standpoint. On September 24th, the ZPA held a public hearing to review the requests. And based off documentation that was provided, that hearing and testimony provided during the hearing, the ZPA recommended by a vote of 4-2 to recommend to the village board support of the conditional use for the plan development. 7 variations required for the setbacks, density, and tree retention requirements, application of the village impact fees for a townhouse project, and the final plan of subdivision. The petitioner is here so he can answer additional questions or provide additional information on the type of project as well.
Did the petitioner want to kind of fill us in on some of the details of the projects, just so we have an understanding?
Good evening. My name is Dave Cook, 1204 Potter Road, Park Ridge. Thank you for the time tonight. I'm really excited to be here and present this exciting development, which I'm calling Harper Point. The goal here is to design 9 single-family homes. Each one of these homes is going to be small, 2 or 3 bedrooms, ranch-style living with a finished lower level. And the idea is to combine all the benefits of single-family home ownership without any of the exterior concerns. There's going to be a homeowners association that will take care of all of the landscape maintenance and the snow plowing. Over the last few years, there's been a lot of attention in the development world in Chicagoland about the lack of senior housing. As a builder community, we picked up on that, but here in town and throughout Chicagoland, most of the newer senior developments are multi-story, multi-family, attached housing geared toward providing housing for those looking for assisted living or even independent, but in a rental apartment-style housing community. Some of the larger developments, such as Del Webb and Huntley, also Cambridge's Caroline and Pingree Grove, offer ranch-style homes in a gated, large-scale community. But there's nothing really in town here that provides new construction, small, single-family ranch homes. That's what I'm looking to do here. And that's the vision beyond Harper Point. From a personal standpoint, my eyes were open to this a few years ago as my parents had got to the point where they were looking to downsize. We came from a 4-bedroom home, a lot of kids, all the kids had moved out, moved to different spots, still keep in contact with mom and dad as good kids do, but my parents had too much house. It was too much maintenance, too much to clean on the inside, too much to take care of outside. They loved the idea of staying where they were at, but they couldn't find any newer construction options that offered some of the new technologies and things that in a building world is available today in either a ranch style or in a first floor master home. So unfortunately, they stayed in their home longer than they should because they couldn't find it in the marketplace. I believe that gap in housing product exists not only from where my parents are, but in every Chicagoland community. So I think this development hits that. As Brian pointed out, the site's very unique. It's got over 25 feet of fall, front to back, side to side. If it's not the biggest hill in Cary, it's got to be in the top 5 because there's a lot happening there. It provides tremendous challenge in terms of designing building a home there. One of the first things we were faced with is, how do you bring garage access to this home? You can't bring it in through the front, typical to other townhomes or even anything existing in Sienna Point, without losing that ranchability or coming up with a very large retaining wall. So what we decided to do is, instead of fighting the ground, let's work with what the big guy gave us. We designed a housing product that has alley access off the back. It brings you into your garage. From the garage, you have a nice little backyard. If you want to have a garden, there's space for all of that, patio. You walk in through that back door. You're walking into your mudroom, which also has your laundry room. We're all looking for laundry on the first floor, especially in this demographic. Then you've got your master bedroom there, master bath, walk-in closet. You've got your powder room. And then we've got a great room concept still all on the same floor, where we've got our kitchen, dining room, and family room all open, no walls whatsoever, perfect for entertaining. Then you have a staircase that leads you down to your lower level, where you've got a second bedroom, second bath, and either a second family room option or convert that into a third bedroom. So I think in addition to seniors, there's going to be appeal here to young professionals as well, or those older couples that may have a high school student or a college-age student where they're looking for separation, still be under the same roof, but have some space between each other. So I think we've done a great job working with the site in terms of bringing in, how do you do a ranch on a hill? We figured it out, and we're really excited about it. I think the market is starved for it. Brian walked through some of the variances. The site's definitely unique. The housing product proposed is very unique, and with that is going to come the need for variances. Brian did a great job walking through. If I could just touch on a couple of finer points with it. Related to the density, as was pointed out, we're looking for 6.9. The majority of the surrounding area is over 7, so I think it's a perfect fit for what two of the larger communities in the area are. Plus, the only reason this parcel right now is looking for a variance for that is because of the size. It's 1.3 acre. The cutoff to get to 6.8 units per acre is 2 acres in size. So if we were slightly bigger, we wouldn't be having the conversation about density. Plus, as you look at what we're trying to accomplish as a group, as a team, as a village, we're moving from highway commercial or retail off Cary Algonquin Road, ultimately to the existing single family back there. To me, it doesn't make sense to have that highway commercial retail then drop down in zoning to 4.8, only to ramp up again in density in terms of getting into 7.0, 7.7 units per acre. So I think the proposed 6.9 is right in line with what the existing community has. We talked a little bit about also the front and rear yard setbacks. A lot of that is being driven by grade. In order to get that back alley access and get that ranch product, we've got to pull that building or those homes a little bit closer. And just for correction, it's a 30-foot setback from the sidewalk or a foot off the sidewalk. It's not from back of curb. It is consistent with what else is out there in Sienna Point. Along with that, part of that challenge with the site also causes the challenge to hit the rear yard setback in terms of what we're doing there. If we had a flat site, we wouldn't be talking about any variances here. We've got a very challenging topographical property that I think we're doing a great job of working with it. In terms of the side yard setbacks, I've worked on a lot of products in between that 8-foot to 12-foot side yard setback. It's perfect for what we're trying to do here. It still provides the privacy between units, access between units. We're working a lot internally. We still have a little bit more work to make sure adjacent units, windows don't align, so there's not a straight shot, from one home into the other. So we're going to work real hard to make sure privacy is kept. The 11-foot setback also helps with neighbor interaction. It's nice in that type of R3 community feel to have single family, but then also have a neighbor that's not that far away. The setback off of Haber Road, the proposed 30, which by code is a 50, is there a way, Brian, to throw that up there, or Jake, can we just throw that up real quick? Yeah, so you can see the 30-foot setback line doesn't really even get you to the building. The only spot where we're looking for 30 feet is really, you've got to come south to where you hit that garage. That's the closest spot. The home itself is probably between 40 and 45 feet, so there's more than the 30-foot there. It's just in order to get that garage consistent, we were looking for that 30-foot on the garage. Regarding the 15-foot side yard setback up against the adjacent property, I know there's mention in the staff report about a fence in that location. I'm willing to do that. I think it's a good idea. I think it helps offset the closeness there, so more than happy to provide the fence there. As a comparison, another thing I did, and was helpful as we were working with staff on this project, is prepare a plan that shows a 9-unit townhome development. Is it possible to pull that up, Brian? Just so everyone can kind of get an idea of, by breaking these units apart, what it does, setback requirements. So on your left, you can see our proposed 9-unit ranch-style townhome detached garage single-family project. Immediately to the right is a separate plan that I prepared that shows you 9 units attached, 3 3-unit townhomes. On the 3 3-unit townhome plan, all the side yard setbacks, all the setbacks are met there. So you can see, but the problem with that is we lose the ranch ability to do this in order to hit, that front yard setback and that rear yard. But you can see by going attached, we are able to make that side yard separation. All I'm requesting is, can we break those 9 units apart and do 9 single-family homes? Because I believe strongly there's a big percentage of the market that's looking for that. Back in January, I met a lot of you, presented this project to Committee of the Whole workshop. We walked away with that, from that, meeting, just with a thumbs up. I thought it was a very positive recommendation. I think everybody, that sat on that Committee of the Whole. Since that time, we've made a couple improvements to the project. It was brought up at that time to provide additional parking. So what we did is we provided 2 driveway spaces behind each garage. So every unit here is going to have 4 parking spaces, 2 in the garage and then 2 behind the garage, which is more than plenty for this type of use. I also mentioned we revised our floor plans. We worked hard at that to bring that laundry from the basement, or not from the basement, but from the finished lower level up to the first floor, which I think, again, just helps tremendously with the senior population we're targeting. We also worked hard on our impervious ratio, and I'm proud to say we dropped 4% on this project. We were previously at 45% coverage, which is allowed by code. We dropped it down to 41%, which on a dense multifamily type project is a lot to be said for that. Upon staff recommendation, we completed final engineering, final landscaping, as well as final plat of subdivision. So that's all done. That's been, submitted to staff, ready for review. And one of the nice things about finishing up the final engineering is it verifies we can make all the grading work on this tough site with all the proposed setbacks that are outlined tonight. We also received a positive recommendation from staff. I think everyone's familiar with that report. And as Brian pointed out, a positive recommendation from the zoning board. So thank you in advance for your time. I appreciate the opportunity to present to you guys tonight. My goal is to receive a positive vote from every member here. So all I ask is if there's something that you're seeing that you have questions on or you want to talk through, please ask me. I'm here to talk through all of that. And last but not least, we also have a request for the interpretation of the application of the village fees to be the lower rated fees for single-family attached or townhome development. That's purely trying to keep these units as affordable as possible for the buyers. If it helps in any way to separate that request, and if we get to voting to do 2 votes on it tonight, I'm completely fine with that, if that helps in any way. So thank you much.
Before I open up for public comment, is there any discussion here by the village board? Do you have any questions directly for the petitioner?
Do you know what price point you're looking at for these? I'm just curious. I don't remember you mentioning that.
Sure, looking to be in the low to mid 2s. I'm thinking 230 is probably right where we want to be.
My question was, you continue to talk about the senior population.
Sure.
Are these homes only going to be available to like the 55 and older community?
No, they're going to be available to everybody. I just believe there's a strong percentage of our buyers here, which will be that 55 and over crowd.
Okay.
What's the square footage?
Square footage is just over 1,600 square feet. So compact, but very efficient layouts.
I have comments, maybe would be better reserved for later, but I feel a little bit insulted by your tone and what you're saying up there, that you keep saying ranch homes, and they're not ranch homes. And it makes me feel like you're trying to deceive us as a board. That's my initial comment, and I would like to hear if other residents have concerns, but I have so many concerns with this. As far as density, number of variances, the impact fees. I am shocked, honestly, that this got through ZPA. And this is not the type of development that I feel we need here right now, especially when we have hundreds of homes that are for sale for less than $220,000 that are much larger. I don't know where the market is. And this density, I can't wrap my head around it. These comparables fall under different zoning regulations. Once you get above the 3.5 acre, the Haber Court, they're allowed up to 6.75 units per acre, and they're at 7.7. So yes, they're over. Harper Avenue Townhomes is allowed up to 4.5 units per acre, and they're at 4.8, and they're over. But you're asking for the same size lot as Harper Avenue Townhomes, you want to have 6.9 units per acre, and that's a gross exceedance in my eyes. And when you compare it to Cary Oaks subdivision, that's a 20-acre parcel, they could go up to 9 units per acre. And I think what we're talking about here is when you have a small parcel, the reason the ordinance is you can't have 9 units on that is because they're trying to protect the character of the neighborhood. They don't want every developer coming here and saying, hey, we're going to cram a whole bunch of units on that little small parcel, and we're going to have a checkerboard neighborhood. How is there going to be unity in our community if we allow you to have 9 units on 1.3 acres, and then another developer to have 9 units on another acre? I don't like it. I don't like it at all, and I think I'm insulted, honestly.
Can I respond? Is that okay?
Sure.
First of all, there's no intention to insult anybody here. I've been the property owner of this piece for 8-9 years, and I've spent that last 8-9 years trying to figure out the best fit for development here. So there's a tremendous amount of research, market research, talking to residents, a lot of blood, sweat, and effort that has gone into creating what's proposed here. So in no means is this something that this hasn't been through 2,500 different drawing boards to get to where we're at. Staff will verify that. I've been working with staff, numerous times on this project. As it relates to the ranch homes, this is the best way to think about this is a ranch home with a finished walkout basement that happens to be flipped only because that's what the land is giving us. I mean, if it was a flat parcel, we would be having a completely different conversation. We're trying to create, and yes, it is 2-story from the front, there's no doubt. I mean, there's the elevation, but the way this plan is set up, these are small homes designed for seniors, looking for a 1 or 2 bedroom home, and all of your day-to-day living rooms are all on one floor. I would love for this parcel to be flat because it would make it so much easier to do what we're trying to do. But
I understand what you're saying, but that, as a board member, that's not my concern. I'm not here to make it so this project is profitable for you. I'm here to safeguard the village and its residents. And what I see here is you want to make money at this. And that, hey, I get it, but that's not my problem, okay? What I have to do is safeguard the village, and what I see here, I don't like at all.
Well, I would make one comment that, as he indicated, and clearly it was with a different board, but he came to the board in January at committee, and he was unanimously encouraged to continue his process. Now, I believe the product was changed somewhat slightly from what was discussed, but he did come forward, he did ask, he has been to staff over the years a number of times. Those things did happen. You're still entitled to your viewpoint on it, but I just want to indicate that in January, he was given a green light.
But there was
For
no vote
6
taken.
units?
There was no vote taken
But
in
he was
January.
he was here in January.
I know he was in here
and it
in
was
January,
presented.
and I remember sitting at the meeting, but I did have some concerns about the impact fees and the variances for the setbacks and this and that. So, I mean, it wasn't like we took a vote and 6 of us said, yeah, go ahead. It was a conversation that I was a little surprised that it even came to us first in the first place before it even went to the zoning and planning board, because to me, that was kind of like the first time that ever really happened. It was like we were given all this information for this project before it even went to the zoning and planning board, and that caught me off a little guard. And I was thinking, okay, well, what's going on with this? So then I was like, okay, well, I'll listen to it, and then it goes to the zoning and planning, and then it'll come back, and now here we are, 6 months, 8 months later, talking about it. So here we are, we're going to take a vote tonight.
The reason I brought it to committee of the whole and staff encouraged it is because it is unique. I mean, that was the whole reason to bring it, to do that plan preparation and have it in January with the intention of, help me, green light or red light. And it was green light, and that's the feedback that I got. I understand we did talk about the village fees, and that's why I'm suggesting let's separate that. Let's have a discussion about that tonight. I'm open to that, but I got a green light at the committee of the whole workshop in January with the intention of go ahead, put the resources in, bring us the final plan, and that's what I did.
Yeah, I mean, it's the board's prerogative to consider it tonight. I'm just laying out what did happen, and that's why it was brought forward. It's been a site that's been
And that was
in
for
transition for many years.
9 units
It
at that
was-
time?
Yes. And in all fairness to the petitioner, he didn't emphasize it enough tonight about the reverse walkout, that it is, the reason he keeps referring to it as a ranch is because it was a reverse, because if it was the opposite way, it would be a
Right.
ranch with a walkout basement. This is just the reverse, that the front. So I'm glad that you clarified that. That was something that was important, that was somewhat intriguing, because I think some of the board members had some issues about that as well. Any other comments? Kim, do you have anything?
No, I'm not a big fan of the density portion of it either. I think 9 units in that small parcel is just way too much.
David?
1,600 square feet is the bonus area, and I've seen this house before in McHenry. Actually, I was looking at buying one, it's in the Oaks there, and it had that. They didn't call it a ranch, but it had the same concept as all your main living was up there, and there was a walkout basement because it was built on a hill. Is the bottom part, the bonus, is that included in that 1,600 square feet so that that is not a basement? It would be part of the property tax assessment?
That's correct.
I will say that I walked the neighborhood and spoke to all the property owners that surrounded this property that were home at the time, and I did not get one resident who was for this project. And that has to be put on the record. And that's not, I know, the determining factor in our decisions, because we have to base it on the good of the village, but I really don't see how this is improving our village. If somebody can point out a way that this improves our village when we have empty homes that are larger and even ranches, I don't know, educate me.
Well, I would say from the standpoint of, I do know that people have brought up, numerous residents have brought up, even some of the residents from Maplewood to come up to me and talked at our village board meeting about, we really need some senior housing, that they felt that there was a need for that for downsizing. Whether or not this is the answer, I don't know, but I would say that there has definitely been people inquiring about being able to downsize and stay in the community.
And I spoke to 3 that border this property that are leaving to get true ranches that don't want to deal with stairs. And these have stairs. And I just am not buying this senior housing thing. I'm sorry. Not buying it.
Is it because because the private market is coming forward and saying there's a demand for this, right or wrong? I mean, you have every right to question that. I mean, he wouldn't build it if he didn't think he could sell them. And the fact that there's vacant homes in the town, I mean, it's a fact. But I would presume that the private market wouldn't build this if people didn't want to buy it. So you, of course, have the right through the regulatory process to have some comment about that. Absolutely, the public comment is useful. I would indicate you have a trustee that's not here tonight as well. I think that should be on the record because there was some feedback that he provided as part of the board back in January. So, I mean, we're just laying out the issues. Trustee Kraus is correct. It was 8-9 months ago. But let's get the questions out so we get them answered.
I would like to separate the fees from the issue, no matter how we discuss this. I'm not in favor of granting that. I saw that as the last item, and I don't see the need to waive the fees for that. This question that I had, and it was raised here, and I lived there in Sienna Point, so those oaks are beautiful, and they're the hardest tree to grow, and they take the longest to grow. Are they really all going to be taken out of there?
Well, there's 2 oaks on the property, and there's 2 maples on the property. The maples in back are in bad shape. One was hit by lightning a ways, a whiles away, or a ways back. The oaks are good. There's no doubt about it. Unfortunately, we're going to be taking down, those 4 trees. But to offset there, we are planting, 25 shade and ornamental trees on site. So in terms of canopy replacement, it's coming back.
Just be careful you don't plant the same ones that they had at Cambria.
You come to the.
I'm gonna open it up to public forum in just a minute, okay? Was there any other well, one of the things that I do, he was given a green light before, He was asked to make some changes. He made the modifications. He's worked with staff. We discussed the laundry room being on the main floor. He's accommodated that. And from what I've been seeing, you've worked well with the village. You're trying to create a product that you think that there's a demand for. I do see, and I do hear a lot of people, I get a lot of seniors come up to me and ask me if they want single floor living, and they want a laundry room on the first floor, which is why we brought that up before. There's a lot of older existing ranches in the village of Cary that their laundry facilities are in the basement, and that is a hindrance to a lot of our seniors. So, and a lot of the ranches that are in the village of Cary have 2 or 3 steps to get up into the homes. That's a hindrance to our seniors. This is more of a direct entry into the home. There's not the step-ups that are needed. So these are some of the accommodations that I think that would be a valuable opportunity for our seniors. Now, the fees and the density, that's something that we need to discuss. But before we make any decision or I call for a vote, I'd like to hear from what the residents that have come about that. So if you could just take a seat for a moment, or maybe just stand there, you may be able to answer some other questions too. I'll go ahead and I'll start. Ma'am? I'll just start with you and we'll work our way down the row. Is that okay? If you can come up to the microphone and state your name and address for the record, that would be great.
Diane DeGrenier, I'm at 750 Harper.
Jake, you get the microphone. Thank you.
Are you there?
Hello.
Diane DeGrenier at 750 Harper, directly across the street. I had a concern on the pricing. What is the square footage of the first floor?
Did you want to answer her question?
We're about 1,000 square feet on the first floor, 600, 500 to 600 below.
And the basement won't be finished upon building?
No, the basement will be finished. There's basically the 500 or 600 square feet on that finished lower level will be all finished.
Okay. And your pricing, you said, was around 260?
I'd love for it to be 260. I think market here is 230. I'd love
Okay.
for it to be higher. There's no doubt about it, but I think that's reality today where the market is.
Our 6 units across the street are close to 3,000 square feet, and they're currently selling at 200,000. So how can you sell someplace or expect to for more money at half the size?
It's a different product. It's a new product, and therefore I'm confident in the price point. As somebody mentioned, I wouldn't be here tonight talking about doing this project if I wasn't 100% certain, this will sell. I know it will.
Not exactly on this, but what were those trees? Because we need to replace some trees, and I don't want the same ones either.
I'm sure that that's something that could probably be worked out.
Yeah, no, I just didn't know it.
Over the name.
They
You're
were-
going to be adding 25 new trees to the.
Oh, no, I meant about Cambria.
Cambria over the trees.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Harper.
They were maples? Okay, I just want to make sure we didn't put the wrong ones in.
Thank you, Diane. Nick, did you want to address the board? Your name
My
and address,
concern
please.
earlier, I'm Terry Finn, I live on Harper as well, and I understand how they look on Harper. They're going to face Harper, the front. What is this looking like when you're on Cary-Algonquin Road? What do you see when you're coming along Cary-Algonquin?
Well, you're going to see one of the side elevations. I don't know if we can.
Because you
pull
said
that
you've
up.
got 9 of them going
Right,
down
so-
Harper.
Right, so from Cary-Algonquin, you're going to see one of the side elevations, and we also have landscaping that's going to go along the side of that, and one of the staff's recommendation was to fence that as well.
This elevation is
So that's going to go all the way down that property of Cary-Algonquin? It's just going to be seeing one house and then ground all the way the rest of the way back? I don't
I'm not sure I
understand.
understand the question.
The first home would be located in this location, so the red rectangle is where the property line is located at. So if this property is zoned for commercial, that could be developed for.
That's what my question was going to be is, so these are kind of set back and the frontage could be commercial. So we could be talking that, a strip shopping center or whatever could be stuck there in the front of those. And then, that's even going to take down more property value of having something like that. We've already got the 7-Eleven on the corner, which is constantly trash all over because kids go down there all the time throwing stuff down. You know, it's always a mess. I'm always cleaning up our property because we're on the nice corner part of the harbor where there is a couple oaks there and it's really nice. So I go out myself and clean up all the trash from the 7-Eleven that sits at that corner. So it concerns me having something like these 9 units on Harper like that because, you know, he's never going to get the money he's talking about for them because we know what we paid for ours a year ago, and ours is very similar to what he's sort of saying. We have a lower level, but everything's on our main level. It's a townhouse. So, you know, 9 all crammed together, you know, it's just going to look horrendous. And then you got that front being commercial, so, you know, what's going to go there? You know, we got a 7-Eleven already with a strip center there with it, and all there is a Cleaners and a 7-Eleven. There's nothing else that's filled in there. So it just makes it look even worse to have all those units, you know, one after the other. And I don't know, it's just a pretty green space now, and it's got the oak trees, and it looks nice. I know the school's there. That's probably going since it's been sold. But, you know, if you were going to put in, say, 4 homes in that area and not having that frontage be commercial, homes would look a lot nicer, you know, have a little more of a draw to have pretty homes in there, 4 of them maybe or something on that lot, but not all this crammed in because we've got that, you know, back there already. It's just my opinion, you know.
How many homes are in your townhouse development?
We have 6. We're the
You're
immediate
the one
ones
that's
across the
directly
street.
right across from the
And there's 6 units there. But, I don't know, my opinion.
Mayor, can I just add
Yes.
one thing that helps with this visual there? I mean, we're talking about density, we're talking about the 9 units. If you think about 9 units and you just take this chunk, this existing chunk of Sienna Point, and just pull it over, that's exactly what we're talking about. I mean, there's no difference. Granted, we're talking about detached product versus attached, but there's no difference between what we've got here, which is throughout Sienna Point, and what we're proposing right there.
I know, we'll go next. Did you want to, Justin? Your turn. Just your name and address, please.
Yes. My name is Angela Franz, and I live in Sienna Point. And I see a lot of difference between what is being proposed and what we have existing because, well, first off, I'm a senior citizen, and we bought there because we wanted a variance in our neighborhood. We didn't want to live in an over 55, and we keep talking about senior buildings. Sienna Point has a lot more space, and we're townhouses, and there's space between those townhouses, and it just seems way too cramped, and that's what I'm afraid of. Cramped and traffic. As it is, Harbor is a very busy street as it is, and I hate to see it getting more so. A lot of trucks parked on the sideways because of the strip mall with the 7-Eleven when they're delivering, and a lot of congestion. And actually, Cary Algonquin Road has gotten very, very busy. We can almost use a stoplight there. You could hardly cross at prime times. And we all use that to get out. There's one way in, one way out. So traffic is going to be a problem. 9 houses with probably 2 cars. I mean, they're planning for 2 cars per, we're talking 18 cars. And then if there's company coming all up and down Harper, is going to be the pattern because there won't be any room in the back to park for company. A lot of congestion for a small area when you have one way in and only one way out. I feel trapped already. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rosalie LaFinn, and I live in Sienna Point. I think Cary can do a lot better. We were promised a lot more. from our board here and from our members here. I think we can do a lot better, and we're not getting better. Sienna Point, the density of this, number one, is exactly what Angie said. I mean, okay, you have company. We have designated areas for them to park. We have open areas for them to go across and park their cars. You're not allowing this. He's shortening up everything from the front to the back. He's shortening up. How many stairs go up? From the, up to the,
Come to the mic.
how many stairs are we dealing with in that
come to
house?
the mic to answer.
Okay. Could you come up to the mic, please?
Sure, of course. I'm sorry.
How many stairs are in that house?
Well, you've got a second floor to first floor, so you've got 9-foot rise, which is usually a 16 riser staircase, like any two-story home.
No, it's not like any two-story home. I don't want 16 stairs to go up or down. I'm a senior here. I'm sorry, that is not senior living to me. Del Webb doesn't have, that capacity. They're all one-level ranches. Agree with you. This is not a ranch. There's 16 stairs. This is not, you're not allowing frontage. We have garbage trucks that park right on that area. So again, they're going to be trucks. They're not going to have any place to go. And you're going to have these homes so close to the road, they're going to have that traffic, that noise, and nowhere for their company to park. Where are they going to park? They're going to be all along the streets. This is not what we want for Cary. And I think you have to rethink what you should bring into the town of Cary. My opinion, I'm hoping that I have a whole group of people that feel the same way, because this is not why we bought in Cary, not to get our homes devalued and not to be building things that are not upgrading Cary. And again, you're dealing with who's going to pay the taxes for all this stuff? Who's going to, the schools are overcrowded as it is, with your low-income housing. Where are those, where are those kids going to fit in? No one's thinking conservatively, rationally, and it's, it's very suspect to me what's happening with the town of Cary. Sorry. Disappointing.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions? Could you come back up to did you want to address any of the other residents' concerns?
I know traffic was a concern. I think, we've worked hard with staff over the last, 18 months on this concept. I think the 4 parking spaces per unit is more than plenty. There was talk about Harper being too congested. We're not loading anything onto Harper. We're taking it all to a private drive that's off the back. I mean, we can't do it both ways. If the concern is traffic on Harper, we're eliminating that by having a private drive that comes off the back. We're not loading anything onto Harper. So I see this project as nothing but an asset to the village.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Did your decision to make these detached single-family homes have anything to do with the limited funding available for condo units at this time?
Not at all. I just think as I started off with, there's a percentage of the senior buying population that is looking for small single-family. Not every person out there is looking for attached housing. They just aren't. I've seen it in my own personal house. Whether or not we can talk back and forth, the stairs, but I'm telling you, there's a market out here. Cary is underserving its population by not having a small single-family home available with new construction to the marketplace.
Go ahead, Dave.
Would your unit be profitable if it was 7 units instead of 9? Would you still be able to build it?
No, I'm looking for 9 units because that's what the project needs to be, financially feasible. I was here, 7, 8 years ago with the 6-unit development. Market has completely changed, as we all know. If I could do it with 6 and not ask for a zoning variance, I would be here asking for that. I know it won't work.
And Brian, what was the total number of variances that we're looking at? And when I ask that question, does that include the fees? Is that a variance?
Fees are not a variance that was specifically requested. It's additional relief that was requested in the actions. There were 7 specific variations that were listed in the staff report that were pulled out, and I can read through those.
Okay.
First was the maximum, or increase the maximum density from 4.5 units to 6.9 units. Second is to reduce the front yard building setback from 50 feet to 30 feet. Third is to reduce the rear yard building setback from 50 feet to 40, or 50 feet to 44 feet. The exterior side yard setback, which is the setback along Haber Road, was again from 50 feet to 30 feet, and that was, as the petitioner mentioned, specifically to the detached garage, not to the actual home. So there's additional setback area that would be provided on that side of the property. An interior side yard setback, which is to the commercial property to the east, to the right-hand side of the slide that's currently displayed, reduced from 25 to 15 feet. The variation for the building setback between the individual buildings by code for attached housing, there's a 40-foot requirement, and he's proposing to reduce that down to 11. Again, applying the single-family attached code requirements to this project due to the overall nature of it being a planned development. And then finally was a variation for the requirements for the retention of existing trees. There's the caliper of the trees that are on the property. There's a code requirement that a certain percentage of those need to be saved. And due to the nature of the site and where they're located on the property, he needs to remove all 4 of those. But is, again, proposing additional landscaping back to compensate for those trees to be removed. So those are the 7 variations requested. And then there's additional relief that he's asking for is the application of the village impact fees for the townhome project, the final plat of subdivision, and then the conditional use for the project as a whole. So that's the several actions that are being proposed.
Any other questions?
I'm just going to say my concern in the sense that I wasn't here in January, so it's not something that I was part of in the last 18 months. But my concern is if we have a petitioner that's gone through all of the proper procedures for the last couple of years to get a project to this state, it is concerning to me as a board, and when you have changeover, I know this stuff is possibly going to happen, but it is a little concerning that if he's being given direction and working with staff to get something done, and then he comes up and now it's totally different than where he's been led to believe, that is a little concerning to me as to what we're presenting as a board out to people that want to do business with us. That is a concern of mine. I'm just stating that from a business model.
Trustee McApine, I would agree with you if we had a petitioner that wasn't asking for multiple variances. It's a different situation, I think. If you have somebody that comes here to build and meet our ordinances, that's one thing. If you have somebody coming here that wants multiple variances and reduction in impact fees, it's different, in my opinion.
Mayor, if I may, just a quick question, it might be a question for Attorney Coppage, is if, based off the vote, we are missing a trustee here this evening, if there's a tie vote in this decision, if it's a 3-3 vote, what would be the impacts for the project from that standpoint?
It fails.
Well, it depends on which way the vote falls, but if it was a 3-3 vote, then most likely it would fail, yes.
This consideration for the...
Well, I'm just asking, I have to ask this question. We have limited developable land within our community, and every piece of property that we need to develop is going to need some type of variation. It's just the nature of the beast. We're an older existing community, and we're trying to identify various uses for these different types of projects. In my opinion, I think it's a good project for that particular area. It fits in nicely with what you have. You're only adding 9 additional units that would probably house 2 adults in each one, is from what the market study is telling us. Let me address the school concern. You had said that we're already overcrowded. It's a statistic that the Village of Cary, District 26 and District 155 are at a 10-year low in their enrollment. I think adding a couple of children coming from that is not going to impact our schools at all. That's just a fact. I appreciate what you guys are saying. Can I finish, please? What would as homeowners in that particular area, what are you seeing developed? We have a property owner that wants to sell his property. He wants to develop his property. What type of development? Could you come up to the microphone, please?
Senior living, Del Webb, no 16 stairs. sorry, this is not, okay. This is going to be something that's not going to be over 55. So again, how many people are you going to get into this facility? Who are you going to get into this facility? I'm concerned about the density, and I'm concerned about the changes of the configuration of having it more closer to the road, having no parking areas. This is not going to be aesthetically, to me, this is going to be determined for people not to go into this area. It's not going to help those homes that are for sale, and there's a lot, and we've got cuts in everything, and you know that the market is horrible. And he's saying that there's a draw. We've seen whole strip malls empty. As far as schools, yes, you're adding a lot of people with this low-income area. A lot of kids are going to be coming into the schools. And what are you putting, and who's going to pay the taxes for all of this?
When you refer to who's paying the taxes, property owners will pay the taxes.
I'm talking about the low-income housing.
Well, that's a whole separate subject.
Well, you're talking about low-income housing. Kids are going to be in the schools. I'm talking about overcrowding. And this is going to materialize. Nobody's thinking in those directions.
Well, we could talk, that's a whole separate issue.
But again, that's
I would love to
concern.
sit down and talk to you about it and give you the stated facts when it comes to that particular
Okay,
project.
but here we're talking
we have
about
9
Sienna
units.
Point, this
Well,
development.
I look at what your setbacks are where you currently live. This conforms with where you currently live. This conforms to the setbacks that where you are. This has the same setbacks
We have
that you do.
parking areas.
Well, they
We're
also
not that
have,
close
how many
to this-
parking spots do you have?
Oh, we have 3, 6, we have a lot. How many? 3, 6, 12.
Oh, per unit, we have
Probably 4, because you have two car
double
garage and a
driveway.
double driveway,
So
so you
that's
have 4.
4.
This has 4. And then maybe this is some, I'm trying to bridge the gap here. I'm trying to get everybody to kind of get on
Okay,
the same page
garage
and have a
holds
conversation.
2. The driveway holds 4. We have, going to the Hoffman Park area, that holds like 8, 6.
right.
In front of your house, now this is all within a short, little, small area. That open parking holds how many?
About 8.
About 8. Again,
And how many units are in your subdivision?
I'm just talking about our couple blocks. This is 2 units, her unit, my unit. And we have 8 and 8 parking spots, plus 4 cars on our driveway and 2 cars in the garage. And I'm telling you, they all get filled up.
I understand. I'm just trying to get some dialogue going and some remedies that we might be able to have.
Go there on a Tuesday when the garbage trucks are all lined up in front of this wonderful development that they're going to be looking at, all these garbage trucks. They have nowhere to go. Go there then on a Friday when the landscapers come. Go there and see what's happening in the neighborhood and what this is going to interfere with all of this. And how are the people going to get through? Like she said, we're blocked. Our only way out is Harper, and again, everything is going to be blocked with trucks, from garbage trucks to landscaper trucks to people delivering from 7-Eleven. A whole strip mall there is empty.
We're aware
This
of
is
that.
not going to be aesthetically adding to Cary, in my opinion.
Did you want to address, could you come up to the microphone again? Is there a way can you go back to the site plan where you've got the
9 units attached?
the 9, the 9 units that are what you're proposing. Is there a chunk of property there you can carve out, because you're under our impervious coverage by 4%? Can you add additional parking at the end of one particular of these units, or, reconfigure something that you might be able to add additional parking?
I just have one question. Are
Sure.
these going to enter from Harper?
He's got to come to the mic, I can't get it.
Go around Haber, or will they enter from Cary outbound?
Well, I would, there's a couple different ways to get into your subdivision. You can go through the green fields to get into your subdivision. You can come off the Algonquin Road to get into your subdivision. So the the entrance to this property will be from the rear of the property.
But I mean, if you're on Cary outbound,
can't get it up.
won't you turn on Harper and come around to Haber
Yes,
and then go
yes.
into these units?
Yes.
So they will be driving on Harper to get around.
Correct.
They're not going to come off Perry Algonquin and go right
Oh, no.
directly to.
No, they'll go around to the back. They won't be stacking in the front.
I'd just like to, point of order, just like indicate we're on live video for our residents, so it's helpful if you can come to the mic if you have any comments, so the folks here as well as at home can hear you. Appreciate that. Thank you.
I think we were talking about, the
Parking.
question was parking, right, Mayor? I believe the code is, I'm guessing here, so Jake or Brian help me, but I believe it's likely 2 spaces per unit, correct? We're providing 4. I believe 4 is more than adequate here. We're not looking to take away green space with more parking space. There's, 4 spaces per unit, plus we're not even talking about the, ability to park. Granted, it wouldn't be overnight parking, but for guest parking on Harper Avenue. I mean, you've got this great wide street there that if people are coming to your front door, it's another spot where guests can park to walk up. I think the parking is more than plenty here. To jump back to the variances, there's no new variances here that weren't presented when we had the committee of the whole workshop in January. So that there's nothing changed with the project other than we fine-tuned a bunch of details based on recommendations that we got there.
Any other feedback?
I have one thing left to say. Our comprehensive plan calls for adding residential, commercial, and businesses. We're supposed to enhance this village by adding a diverse array of different things. We keep adding residential. This is another residential development, which I don't see the demand for. And we're offsetting the balance when the stated purpose is to get more business, or the hope is to get more business and commercial development to gain more tax revenue to decrease property taxes in this village. And I don't believe that adding more residential development furthers that cause. I don't believe it.
Actually, that's exactly the thing that adds businesses. As was explained to us multiple times as a board, is that developers look for the number of rooftops that are in a village to help determine whether or not their type of business is profitable. I would say as well, Jim, that all the residents have to do is look around. Yes, there is vacancies, but we are currently at what percentage of occupancy, Brian? 90% of our properties are occupied of the businesses in Cary. So it's not all doom and gloom. Now, that being said, I just want that, fact to come out there.
I didn't say it was all doom and gloom, but the only new business development we've had in the last 5 years now is Starbucks. So we can't keep adding residential development without other business or commercial development. That's my opinion.
Would you consider tabling this and come back with another remedy that would incorporate some of the concerns that your new neighbors would
I'm
have?
here because I believe in the site, and I'm here to work together with everybody, but I thought, I'm okay with tabling it, but we had a meeting in January where I was given the thumbs up, this makes sense, this is what we want to do. So I'm struggling to understand what the direction here is.
Well,
I'm struggling with that, I'm sorry, but
I understand, but we have a different board now. Sure. Times are different right now, so we have to satisfy the needs of the existing board and get their questions answered to the best of our ability. And we're trying to bridge the gap here. We're trying to, help you sell your property, develop your property, have our existing residents feel somewhat accommodated to some of the concerns that they're bringing forth tonight. And I'm giving you an opportunity, if you think that you can make some additional remedies to the proposed development, now would be the time to think about that.
I'd love to think about that, Mayor, but I guess what I'm asking in return is, I need some direction. I mean, I think we've got a great project here. If somebody's not feeling that, help me understand what makes it a great project. I don't think adding more parking is needed here. I don't think that does anything other than take away needed green space.
Where's your market research that says that these are going to sell? That's what he needs to see. He doesn't believe it. You say it, she doesn't believe it. So there's your answer is it's you saying it. I don't know. I mean, I live in Sienna Point. My property values have gone down. I can't see those 9 units helping me in Sienna Point. I'd love to see, something there. I believe that there's a need for that type of housing in Cary, but those are the questions that you have. And the difference between January and now is that this board is taking a more in-depth look at things. I mean, it just is. So.
And I can appreciate that.
All right, then I have no other choice but to call for a roll call, please.
Mike, what's the point of order? Mike, what's the procedure to, is it to remove from the table? Once it's been motioned and seconded, how could we remove it from the table? We could postpone the item, which would mean that it would be postponed indefinitely.
Yes.
Okay, then I'll move to do that. I'll move to postpone this item.
I second.
Roll call, please.
Hang on 1 second. Okay. Chapman?
Yes?
McAlpine?
Yes.
Cavelli?
Yes.
Kraus?
No.
Cosler?
No.
Mayor's-
Yes. My advice is to work with staff, get some developmental or your population statistics, and so that we could address some of the concerns that our residents have had, and they're valued residents. We want to make sure that they're being heard. But on the same term, I want to make sure that they're educated exactly what you're proposing and where you're going with this development. So this is why we've postponed this.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
I'm just going to make a comment because I think it's out there. I think this was postponed because we don't have a full board here tonight, and we knew what was coming down the pike.
I disagree, Trustee Kraus. I think I would like to give the
Very well.
petitioner an opportunity to make some remedies. I will entertain a motion to approve ordinance 015-10-06, an amendment to the village code to impose a cable video service provider fee.
So moved.
Can I have a second? Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
You want me to wait?
Go ahead, Jake.
Mayor, thank you, Village Board. This was an item that we had discussed at Committee of the Whole meeting last month. Just for some refresher, we had a table in front of you here that illustrates the franchise fee that we receive from Comcast, that is 5%. In doing some research, it was discovered that we don't receive any franchise fee from AT&T. That is due to the fact that AT&T is regulated by the state. We have not passed a ordinance that would require that franchise fee to be kicked in. What we're recommending here this evening and what was discussed at committee was a recommendation of a 5% cable and video service provider fee ordinance that would impact AT&T. During our Committee of the Whole meeting discussion, there were some questions raised by Trustee Chapman and Trustee Cavelli regarding some taxes that were included on the AT&T invoice, or AT&T bill, I should say, and then also when this fee would kick in and if it has kicked in on residents' bills. Attached to your, or this on the second page of your agenda item illustrates some of those taxes that are charged from the video portion for individuals that have AT&T. Additionally, AT&T did confirm that this fee does not go into effect until the ordinance is passed by the village board
and that is served upon AT&T. Finally, I just wanted to point out too, we discussed during the committee of the whole meeting, the PEG charge, and the PEG is, excuse me, used to pay for our infrastructure here. If we decided to put our meetings out on cable, we decided to hold off on that. What we've included in the ordinance is just a provision where we'd have the ability, if we so chose, to add that PEG fee at a later date. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that the village board has at this time.
Well, I may as well let loose. I've never been in favor of the franchise fee from Comcast and now some type of fee from AT&T. And I understand that residents have a choice not to have this. But what the Comcast and Time Warner and AT&T turn around and do is they charge that 5% to you. That money goes to the village for it to use in general revenue. It doesn't make our cable any better. I mean, it doesn't improve my lawn, it doesn't improve my life, but it's an extra fee. If that business, which is a for-profit business, wanted to pay a franchise fee for operating and the privilege of being within the village of Cary, and they made a donation to the village and didn't charge you and me for that, I think that's a fair deal. And so what I asked staff to do is to come up with that question to AT&T. I know it's never been done before. There's a lot of things that haven't been done before. Look in Fox River Grove and notice that their wires over there are below the ground. Nobody ever challenged Commonwealth Edison until Fox River Grove did. You know, Cary, our stuff is still above. So I understand that things haven't been done before, but there's nothing to say that we can't go there and ask for that now. And if you never ask, the answer is always going to be no. So I'm not in favor of gaining money for the village, which is not going to directly improve the video services, something else, and then having that for-profit business turn around and charge you again. So it seems like they're paying something for us, and you're ending up paying it on your bill. So that's all.
What I would say, can I answer that?
Yes.
I contacted AT&T representatives and talked to them about it, that exact point.
Yeah.
AT&T's concern is that they're dealing with, hundreds of municipalities in the state of Illinois and throughout the country. Right now here with the state of Illinois, they are regulated through the state, not local franchise agreements. They don't want to get into the business of entering into agreements with individual municipalities. And so to your point, they're not interested in providing that fee or donation, whatever you want to call it, to the village of Cary.
Will you forward me that email, Jake, from them?
That was not an email. That was a phone conversation that I had with an AT&T rep.
Okay, could you go back to them and just say, just in confirmation of our conversation on October 2nd, I want something in writing from them. I'm not satisfied with, we asked them and they said, no, I want to see something in writing. And maybe it is something that hundreds of communities around, Illinois stand up and say, hey, you know what, you're right. I never thought about that before, never realized that the franchise fee was getting charged back to me. And I know, in America, that's, part of the business model. And if I am absolutely in the minority, you guys, tell me no and vote it down. But I want us to actually try to ask for that. I mean,
it was.
No, I know it was, Jake. No, I don't mean that. I mean physically where I can have a letter and say, you know what? Here's what they said.
What are you going to do with the letter?
We're going to have it. We're going to have.
I'm just saying, if we know the answer is no, what's the point if Jake's saying that he talked to him? I'm just curious, you want him to go back to them and now say, put it in writing for me?
Yeah.
And then what are we going to do with it?
Absolutely. We'll have that on record. That will be that we attempted to do it. Right now, we don't have anything. And I mean, other than, I guess it's on the record, of
Well, I'm
the
just saying, we
village
have it because
board.
Jake said so. That's on the record now, right?
No, it's not. I don't know that guy's name. I don't know his position. He could be, anybody, and he could be somebody who is not an authority to make that decision. And I want to have the ability to find out who his boss is and go to his boss and say, you know what? Joe told me that you can't do it. Well, you know what? That's not good enough. And our residents and, and maybe 100 municipalities are not satisfied with Joe's answer. I want to at least be able to start somewhere.
Any other comments?
Just a question about the Comcast franchise agreement.
Sure.
When does that end? Or would be up for renewal?
Yeah, the Comcast agreement is coming due this spring at some point, and so I've had some initial discussions with our Comcast rep, started reviewing a draft agreement that would come before the village board here for discussion, so you will see that here in the coming months.
Do you want to say something?
Could you come up to your name and address, please?
Martha Ritter, 239 School Street. I was just wondering if it's raining or snowing or windy and we lose cable, can we charge them a fee? Seems to be happening more and more.
Martha, they do pay if your cable's out. They do take it off of your bill.
But you have to.
But you have to call them. So.
I'll be calling every day.
See, we just saved you money.
It's,
I've called before even just an hour.
Yeah.
They've taken care of me.
Yeah.
So.
Could you explain what some of the fees that Comcast has, that goes to the use of our public right-of-ways?
If you look at the exhibit here, that's the franchise fee. And so you'll see it, if anyone has Comcast, it'll list it specifically as, I think it's local franchise fee, 5% on your bill. And right now, for one, you can look at the Comcast line item there, and it's north of $250,000. And so that's a significant impact to our general fund here. And we're trying to look at this too as an apples to apples. And right now we've got Comcast with that 5%, and AT&T, there isn't anything on their invoice.
Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Hang on. Cavelli?
No.
McAlpine?
Yes.
Kraus?
Yes.
Chapman?
No.
Counselor?
No.
Motion fails. Thank you, Jake. I will entertain a motion to approve the village's annual treasurer's report as required by the state of Illinois compiled statutes to be filed with the municipal clerk, the McHenry County treasurer, and published in the local newspaper within 6 months after the end of the fiscal year.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions regarding this? We just approved this in roll call, please.
Cavelli?
Yes.
McAlpine?
Yes.
Chapman?
Yes.
Kraus?
Yes.
Counselor?
Yes.
Thank you. Moving towards the administrator's report.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to brief the trustees on one item that's relevant to some discussion tonight. By way of this, from time to time, we've brought various development projects to the committee of the whole for what I'd call courtesy review prior to sending them into a process that, as has been indicated earlier tonight, typically starts at the Zoning, Planning, and Appeals Board and then typically heads to Village Board with either a positive or negative recommendation. And the reason the village does that from time to time is that when that's available, it gives various projects the ability to get kind of a litmus test before significant additional investment and other sorts of regulatory processes, occur for a project. Tonight we had the Harper Point development, and we understand that there's been a board change since January, that's clear. But I just want to indicate that that is our kind of status quo, and we do have another project that is coming into the pipeline now that's asking for a courtesy review, and that's simply for a senior housing, low-income housing tax credit project for the site that's adjacent to the Cary Post Office behind the Jewel. And they are asking to come to the Committee of the Whole for consideration of a 60 to 80 unit senior housing project for board consideration. It would involve a rezoning, some other approvals certainly, but by way of practice, and it happens to be this senior housing project now, but typically municipalities want to have that process so that they can give a quick no if that need be the case to various projects, or somewhat of an encouraging yet, but prefaced with the fact that you got to go through the process. And I'd like to be clear on whether or not that is a practice you want to continue. It's a common best practice done by a variety of suburbs. Most recently, a clear example is Village of Lake Zurich. They've had significant issues with their downtown and their tax increment financing district, and one of the ways that they've been able to turn around the development community there has been to have this courtesy review process, and it's been able to help them move along some projects finally, after probably 8 years of challenges with the economy. So I'd like some comment on that tonight, so we're sure we're giving developers proper guidance.
Pardon me?
I said I'll comment on that. I think it's an excellent practice, because I think that any developer that wants to entertain the possibility of doing something in our community, if we can give them proper guidance and we know as a board, what's going on, I think that we wouldn't be faced with some situations like right now, which I understand where we're at with it, but I just think that I think that's a great practice to follow, to have them be able to come in and get some insight and some direction and some guidance.
Yeah, I agree.
David?
I'm kind of confused, and maybe that's just the way it's going to be tonight. Didn't we say, like, the guy that was going to build at Maplewood, we, pushed him off and said, don't even come and talk to us until the school district sells you the property?
That was a different process. They never got out of the development review process with the school district, so it never got to courtesy review stage.
Okay.
It was that deal, if you're talking about the one that was considered back in as late as April of 15, that never got the courtesy review stage because it never got out of the school district.
Okay, so it would have to be that the group or business, whatever, would have to already own the property, and then they would get a courtesy review.
Not necessarily, no. I mean, because in some of these cases, it's done with an option, to get zoning and village approvals. They don't always own it when they come ask for it. So, I mean, what I'm saying is there needs to be some judgment based on staff, and this is about courtesy review in public, at a public meeting, at a committee of the whole. You need to have staff continuously meeting with developers on all concepts, following the comprehensive plan or other plans you've given us as a continuous process. But, to get it to that next stage where it's ready to be in public, and so our board's not surprised, and then our zoning board has some concept of, at times, how the board's going to see this, it's a logical way to work through things. But if you don't want to do it that way, we need to be told, because that's the current practice. It's a different case than what you're talking about with Maplewood.
Okay.
But could we use that process as a method with Maplewood?
Yes.
To come up with an idea of what may be acceptable for that parcel?
You can, and what I'm saying is, the example I'm giving is when you have a development or developer that is interested, yes, you can do that. You may be asking, though, before that.
I'm
And
asking prior to.
that's more of a sub-area plan, like we've talked about at the Maplewood Committee, which is just find it, continue to contemplate. I'm talking about where they're beyond just talking to staff, understanding the ordinances. Now they're serious about a project. They're ready to launch into the process, but there's some strategic or tactical questions that they need to have some sense of before they go through zoning. That's what we're handling, that job now proposed for this site I described by Jewel. So I just wanted to put that out there. I expect them to be in front of you as soon as, I would suggest probably November, but it could be as soon as the next board meeting.
Chris, with that, I would just like to see some more communication. Like, as soon as I saw this plan, the density, the 11 feet in between each home, I knew right away I did not like it. And I could have provided you feedback before,
Sure.
the meeting, and I realized we got the packets this weekend, but prior to that, especially, if it's going to go to zoning because it needs these variance requests, if you get feedback from us, while you're in that process, just open the lines of communication is all I would just say.
Okay.
I would say, no, I'm not in favor of it if I'm not allowed to change my mind after it's gone through zoning and planning. It's just a cursory review that's coming before us, and we're kind of giving ideas here and there. Oh, yeah, I kind of like that. That might be a good thing. Down the line, I might change my mind. Until the fat lady sings, I don't know which way I'm going to go. So, tonight you're like making it sound like, oh, well, Kraus was there at that meeting, and there was a unanimous consent, and everything was great, and, it should have been passed tonight. Well,
That's not what
no.
I said, Jeff. That's not what I said.
But that's the impression I'm getting, is that I kept hearing there were 6 people there, and it had a unanimous consent, and it was supposed to come before us tonight, and everything was a done deal. Like Kim said, why didn't, did you talk to any of the new trustees prior to that about this project to see which way it was going to be going? So no, I'm not going to be in favor of something like that. Let it go to zoning and planning, and then come to us, and then we can have the discussion and talk about it. But not if I'm going to be called to the fire and made to feel like I can't change my mind. So,
Chris, I think you had mentioned that, and again, I'm going to go back maybe 6 or 8 months, that there was a different model in some other municipalities of how they handle the developers approaching the village rather than the courtesy review. Is there?
Well, this is simply a public process where it gives you, before it heads into the regulatory aspect, their ability to give you some elevations, a general site plan, a comment about the zoning. These are all things that, the process deals with, and you ultimately get a recommendation from zoning on. But if your answer is flat out no, right out the gate, why put the zoning board through that process, the village board back through the process, the development community's confused? It makes no sense. And I understand the issue tonight on Harper Point, and you always have the right to vote no. But the issue is that if we can't get to a place where we have some sense of where the body is as a whole, it affects our ability to develop anything, whether it be commercial or residential or anything. Because there are typically, including on the consent item on Starbucks tonight, it's just an easy example. There's often many different types of regulatory things that projects need, but if it's a flat out no on the use, why not know that on the front end so that there's not confusion?
Okay.
And that might be one of the issues we have with the committee of the whole structure, is that it's based on, well, there's a consensus, there's a feeling that it would move forward. If we had had the committee structure with the administration committee, there would have been a 2-1 vote, moving it forward, or there would have been a vote saying, yeah, let's move it forward to the full board, and then have a discussion about it. This notion that we're here, the committee of the whole, and we're all just kind of throwing ideas around, and yeah, I kind of like that, and this and that, and then it seems like almost every other week, there's like, oh, well, let's take a poll. How do you feel? Are you in favor of this or not in favor? I'm not really sure. I'm just having the conversation tonight. I'm taking in the information, and then I want to think about it a little bit before I'm like put on the spot and said, okay, well, he's in favor of it. So now when it does come before the board, he'll be in favor of it and he'll be voting a yes. I want to have a chance to get the information, hear what zoning and planning had to say about something, and get a good understanding of what the project is all about. I have a right to change my mind.
I'm not saying you don't. That's why I'm not understanding.
We'll move on. Ellen, you're okay with doing something like that? Jim, what's your feedback on that?
I'm sort of going to stay out of this battle right now. I mean, I like the idea of getting a heads up on a project, but I don't like the idea of being held to the fire if you change your mind, I think it needs to be structured in a way where you can just, and without tallying, this is the consensus, not this is Trustee Kostler's opinion at that time, and maybe that would solve the issue.
Well, it is. We just typically do just a consensus, and nothing's recorded as to who's.
Well, yeah, I mean, as far as the minutes go, you know what I mean. But yeah, I am for getting a heads up on potential projects in the community. I think if we don't have that, I'm worried that we're not going to see everything until the last second,
Well, I think that we have a consensus to continue with just a cursory review, so people have an
We'll
understanding.
know as soon as the next committee of the whole meeting, because I'm explaining that there may be a development project there for you, and I didn't want you to be surprised. So, thank you.
Anything else?
No, that's all I had. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. I think we've already heard from the department heads. Is there any future agenda items and discussion by the village board? Nope. I will entertain a motion to adjourn into executive session to discuss litigation pending or imminent.
So moved.